Hey traders, in today's Pine Script lesson we are going to be covering for loops. And for today's lesson, I'm going to be creating a positive bars percentage oscillator. So this indicator you see on my chart right now is counting all of the positive or bullish bars over the past 10 bars, and you can change the look back period to whatever you want, and then it's drawing this blue line as a percentage of how many of those bars were bullish, and then we have our 80 limit and our 30 limit, similar to an RSI oscillator. And so this indicator is going to oscillate between 0% and 100%. And in order to achieve this functionality, we're going to be using for loops. So let's get into the Pine Script editor, get started. But before we begin, if you have any content suggestions, any Pine Script subjects you want me to cover, please suggest them in the comments section. And you guys can vote by using the like button on the comment, and I'm going to pick whichever comment has the highest votes to cover in the next video. Anyway, let's get started. Alright, so here I am with a blank script. Absolutely nothing has been changed except the title of my script. The first thing we need to do with this particular script is set overlay to false. Now you don't need to do this, overlay is set to false by default, but it's just a habit I like to get into. I like to specify my overlay parameter in my study annotation function just to make it clear what this code does if you're not reading it while it's attached to your chart. But we're also going to change one more parameter here, which I don't think we've covered in previous YouTube videos, and that is our decimal precision. So this is how many decimal places will show in your indicator's value title. So by default, this is set to whatever the precision of your chart is. So in this case, I'm on a Forex pair, which has 5 decimal places after the decimal place. We don't need that many for this particular script, so I'm going to set our precision today to 2. If I save the script, you'll notice now that our indicator value rounds to 2 numbers, our decimal value. So that's it for our study annotation function. Our script is ready to get started. And the first thing we need to do is, as always, get our user input. So get user input. And the only input we need for this script is our look back period, our upper limit, and our lower limit. So we need a look back, an upper limit, and a lower limit. And these are going to look something like this. We need to use the input function with a title of look back. Oops. A type of integer, input.integer, and a default value of 10. So by default, we're going to be looking back 10 bars to calculate our positive bar value. And now to save time, I'm going to copy this line of code and paste it in here twice, change this to upper limit, and change the default value to 80. This one will be lower limit, and I'll change this value to 20. And I need to space that out. So there's our user inputs, look back, upper limit, lower limit. So the next step is to use this information in a for loop to count how many bars were positive over our look back period. So to do that, we need to count past x positive bars where x equals our look back period. Let me make more space here. So the first thing we need to do before we start our for loop is declare a positive bars counter variable. So this is going to be what counts how many positive bars were over our look back period. And next we use our for loop. So a for loop, for anyone who is unfamiliar with them, is just a loop of code similar to an if statement. You indent your code here and you tell this for loop how many times to loop this code, this XXX code. Whatever this expression is will be looped for however many times you tell Pine Script to execute this for loop. So a for loop works like this. You need to declare your loop variable, which a common programming practice is to just call it I. So for I is set to, and then you set your number. So you could say here 0, and then 2, 10. And what that would do is count from the current bar on your chart back 10 bars. And whatever code you put underneath this for loop will be executed 10 times. And you can use this I variable to reference historical bars within your for loop. So technically, this for loop would loop 11 times. Reason for that is it would loop as 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 10, with 0 counting as a cycle, a loop cycle. So it's important to take that into consideration. So when we're looping up to our look back amount, we need to minus 1 from that amount. So 0 to 9 would count from the current bar back 9 bars, which is technically 10 bars because 0 is counted as an index. And that's what I stands for. I is short for index, the for loops index, because the most common practice for a for loop is to use it to reference array variables or values contained within a list. In this particular case, we're using this index value to reference historical bars. So our for loop is going to look something like this. If the closing price of this current index of our loop, so it will start off as 0, which is the current bar on our chart. If the current bar's closing price is greater than the current bar's opening price, that means we have a bullish candle. Our close is higher than our open. That's a positive bar. So once we detect a positive bar, we need to add it to our positive bars counter. Now remember, when you're assigning an existing variable a new value, you need to use the colon equals operator. So this is assigning. This initializes positive bars as 0. This operator assigns positive bars, and then we want to reference whatever the current positive bars value is and add 1 to it. And so that's really it for our for loop. If this is confusing to you, which it definitely will be if you're new to programming, it usually takes new traders a little while to wrap their heads around things like for loops and conditional statements and complex things with lots of moving parts like that. But I promise you, if you practice with this code, play around with it, it'll make perfect sense to you. For example, you could compare different conditions to your bullish candles. You could check if the past X amount of bars were above a moving average, for example. So if you're a little bit stumped by this, I encourage you to copy this block of code here and play around with it in your Pine editor until it clicks for you. But anyway, before we move on, there's one more functionality or feature to this for loop that I should mention. And that is that you don't have to loop by increments of 1. So looping from 0 to look back minus 1 means we're looping from 0 to 9 if the user hasn't changed the default value of our look back. So we're looping from 0 to 9 by increments of 1. So the loop will go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, blah, blah. You can change that if you want to by using the by operator. So if I were to set this to 2, then this for loop would go from 0 to 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 and skip every odd bar. And you can make this any number you want. So that's important to mention. By default, it looks like this. So the for loop will operate like this. It will function like this. We're counting from 0 to our look back minus 1 by increments of 1. And the final thing I should mention with a for loop that's important to know is that you can count backwards as well. So we could swap these operators, and now we'll be counting from 9 down to 0. So 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, etc. So these for loops are really powerful. Once you master them, you can achieve some really cool stuff with a for loop. But anyway, let's leave this as it was. We'll get rid of by 1 because it's unnecessary. And this code here should work just fine. So the next thing we need to do before we start drawing this information to the chart is convert our positive bars into a percentage. So if the user changes the look back period to something like 15, then we want to divide our positive bars by that look back period in order to get our positive bars over our look back period as a percentage. So if the reading says 60, then that means that 60% of the bars over our look back period were bullish. So to do that, we need to get positive bars as a percentage. And to do that, we need to declare a new variable called positive bars percent. And that is going to be initialized or set to our positive bars divided by our look back period multiplied by 100 to turn it into a whole number percentage. And now we can change our plot from the default plotting of the closing price to our positive bars percentage. I'm going to set the color to blue. and I'm going to title this Positive Bars percent, so that our users can come up into the settings menu and change the style of this plot if they want to. Now if I save the script, the magic should happen, and there we have it. So our script is now calculating our positive bars over the past 10 bars looking left as a percentage between 0 and 100. Pretty cool. But we're not done yet. We need to add a couple more plots to this indicator so that we can actually see the upper and lower limits. So remember that all plots are plotted in order to your chart. So if you want something to draw over the top of another thing, you need to plot that first. So in the case of our upper and lower limits, our overbought and oversold lines, if you will, which is what they would be on an RSI oscillator, we're basically copying that style of indicator appearance. So what we want to happen is we want our indicator value, or our blue line here, to draw over the top of our upper and lower limit. And so what we need to do is plot our upper and lower limit before we plot our positive bars as a line. And to do this, we're going to use a different technique to the plot. We're going to use H lines, which are short for horizontal lines. And this parameter, or this function, takes a few parameters. The only one we need to use is price, color, and title, but you can play around with the others in your own time if you want to. So the first thing we're doing is drawing our upper limit. I'm going to color this color.orange, and I'm going to give it a title of upper limit so that it'll appear in our style menu with a title. This just cleans up our user interface. It makes the user experience a little better for anyone who wants to adjust these settings. So we're done now with our upper and lower limit. If I save the script, we'll be having an orange line drawn at 80 and 20. We can change this in the settings if you wanted to. Go to inputs, change this to 70 and 30 if you wanted to. But one last thing I want to do with this indicator is I want to draw our 0 and 100 level on the chart so that we can actually see them, so that when these values get to extremes, we have something to reference it against. And this will make sense in a second. So I'm going to say draw top and bottom of oscillator. And for this, we're going to plot just a flat whole number 100. I'm going to give this a color of color.black. I'm going to set its editable parameter to false, because we don't want the user to be able to change the style of this. This is an optional thing to do, but I thought while we're here, I might as well show you how to do this. So we're setting editable to false, and we're going to title it top. Now I can copy this line of code, paste it there, change our plot value to 0, change our title to bottom. Now if I save the script, we'll be having a solid black line drawing at 100 and at 0. So now we have a reference point for our oscillator. We have our upper and lower limit and our maximum extremes. And because we've set editable to false, if I come up into the style menu, you'll notice that these two plots are not listed under our style menu. Now again, that's an optional thing to do. You don't need to do that. If you wanted to be able to change these lines, you could leave editable, the editable parameter out of this plot function. But for future reference, if you do want to disable the style of a plot in your indicator, that's how you do it. And then finally, the script is pretty much done now. But while we're here, we might as well add alert functionality to this script, because it's not difficult to do. And what our alerts are going to do is when our positive bars percentage line, this blue line, exceeds our upper or lower limit, it will trigger an alert if the user has set one. So let's do that now. Open up the Pine editor again. I'm going to add another comment here. It just says trigger alerts. And we're going to put in here 2 alert conditions. So copy that, paste that there. One of these alert conditions is going to be for our upper limit, and one is for our lower limit. So for this, we need to say, does the current positive bars percent value exceed, is it greater than or equal to our upper limit value? If it is, then we want to trigger our alert. And for this, I'm going to just keep the title short. I'm going to call it PB, short for positive bars. And this first alert is going to be a positive one. So the plus sign means it's exceeded our upper limit. I'll add alert on the end of that. and we're going to set our message to positive bars has exceeded upper limit. And now I'm going to show you how to do one last cool little trick, which is adding a plot value to your alert messages. So when this alert triggers, we're also going to use this special placeholder, plot underscore 0, within 2 curly brackets. So you can see that there. What this is doing is it's going to be replaced by the Pine Script engine, by the TradingView platform. When this alert triggers, this plot underscore 0 will be replaced with the value of the very first plot in our script, which is this one here. So H lines don't count as plots. So plot underscore 0, remember everything in programming starts from 0, not 1. So our very first plot, number 0, is this plot here, positive bars %, which is our blue line or our blue value here. So this code that we've just written is going to add our current positive bars percentage to our alert message, so that when you get your email or your push notification or however you set up your alert, you can see at a glance exactly what our positive bars percentage value is before you even open up your chart. Now this is also very useful for sending or relaying script data to third-party APIs. So you can automate trade execution by sending your plots to a third party using this technique. So if this was a stop loss price or a take profit price or an order size, you could relay that info to a third party. But I'm not going to go over that today, obviously, because that is far too advanced for this particular lesson. I might cover that stuff in the future if there's enough interest in that in the YouTube comments. So leave a comment below if you have a suggestion that you'd like me to cover. I do take them into consideration when I'm planning content for this channel. And I love getting feedback from you guys. It's great. I'm really enjoying seeing so many traders improve their scripting and their trading as a result. It's really, really great to see. I know firsthand just how much Pine Script has helped my trading, and I'm really excited to be able to share my knowledge with you guys here. But anyway, let's wrap this lesson up by writing our final alert condition, which will be positive bars as a percentage is less than or equal to our lower limit. If this condition is met, then our alert will be fired or triggered. I'm going to give this a title of PB minus sign alert, and it's going to have a message of positive bars has exceeded lower limit. And then again, we'll write in plot underscore 0 in curly brackets. And our script is now done. We have completed our positive bars oscillator script. And so our script is now plotting the positive bars over our look back period as a percentage, and we can set alerts on this information. So if you come up to your alert interface and you select under condition, you select our script. Here are our 2 alerts, PB positive and PB negative. If you were to create this positive alert, then you will be triggered, depending on what options you select, your alert will be triggered when this blue line exceeds our upper limit. And the message for our alert will contain our blue line's value. And that's it. We are done. The last thing I should do is just demonstrate how we can play around with this script now. So we could change this look back period to 15, for example. And now you'll notice that our positive bars percentage has changed from whole numbers to having 2 decimal places. We don't really need more than 2 decimal places for an oscillator like this. That's why we set our precision to 2 up here. And the script is functioning as expected on all time frames. So it doesn't matter what time frame you're on, doesn't matter what your look back period is. You could set this to 3. You could set this to 100. Change our upper and lower limits to 60 and 40. And there you have it. We have a functioning positive bars oscillator indicator, all achieved using our for loop. So I hope you found this lesson interesting and helpful in your programming and trading journey. If you did find this lesson interesting and helpful, then I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know how it helped you, and most importantly, what you'd like to see next. And also, while you're there, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll be back soon with plenty more free content like this. I'm trying to get into a regular routine of releasing these videos every fortnight, but if you don't want to wait for that, or you want to learn more about Pine Script more rapidly and shortcut your learning process dramatically, then head over to pinescriptmastery.com, where you'll find all of my courses covering Pine Script. I have a completely free basics course over there that covers the fundamentals of Pine Script. I have the Pine Script Mastery course, which has 85 lessons and a few dozen hours of content covering Pine Script in great detail, imparting nearly everything I know about Pine Script to you. We've had several graduates from the Pine Script Mastery course go on to create great things, which I'm really proud of. And then finally, I've just recently released the Pine Script Mentorship Program, where I mentor you in your Pine Script journey and produce ongoing content each and every month. And it's a monthly subscription fee. If you sign up to a year worth of the mentorship program, you get all of my courses included for 50% off. But that's it for today's lesson. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Good luck with your trading, good luck with your coding, and take care. Be safe out there. See you in the next one.